me. Okay, so I'm just going to really quick back up and just briefly say that this whole planning rest and planning margin into my life is something that the Lord has convicted me of, because last spring we got way too busy and I allowed this culture of busyness to creep in, and we are no longer doing that. So anyway, I'm going to get back to talking about how I've gone about sort of making this shift and this. Thanks, Jen. It's good to see you. Well, see your text. So anyway, the process that the Lord has taken me through, and I've done some training and I've done some different kinds of classes and read some books and learned some different things that have helped me get to where I'm at now, which I feel way more prepared to go into this next busy fall. And I just wanted to share with y'all some of the stuff that the Lord's been teaching me. So thanks for coming back, Nikki. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so what we're going to talk about is how to sort of plan in margin and rest into our day. Now, some of the stuff that I'm going to be talking about, maybe you have seen 100 times and maybe it's not new at all. Maybe you just sort of need kind of a refresher. And I'm going to talk about some things that are super countercultural. And the Lord was so good to me to give me 10 years in Guatemala where there was a rhythm to life there, where busyness was not part of the culture. Everybody worked really, really hard, but it was just different. We ate 3 meals a day together as a family. It was just a different culture. And so it's been a struggle to get back into the United States culture and still keep a biblical perspective, especially on rest. So, okay, there are different types of people who, and this is going to speak differently to different types of people, but there's those people that don't plan at all, that planning is a non-issue. Like they just sort of, they're cool, flying by the seat of their pants. And that's awesome. If that's what you're like, that it just causes chaos for me. I don't do well. There's those of us that love to plan, and so we get it all planned out, but then we forget to even look at our planners, and then we get lost and confused and end the day sort of wondering what happened to the day and where it went. And then there's those people who love to plan, super good at it, and they stick with it, and they stick with their plan, and it enables them to sort of function really well. Well, planning keeps me sane. So I'm just going to really briefly tell you sort of how I plan out my weekly schedule, and hopefully it'll be helpful to you. Okay, the very first thing before we start planning anything, and something that every one of us has to do if we're married with our spouses, is to set out what our priorities are. It is super easy to get sucked into all of the things that we just have to get done in the day, that we don't make any time for the things that are really, really important. So, for example, one of the things that's in theory incredibly important to me is the spiritual training of my kids, like discipling them and their spiritual formation. But practically speaking, sometimes a day will go by or a week will go by, and other than taking them to church or prayers before bed or a conversation here or there hasn't been real intentional spiritual formation going on with my kids. Or for example, just investing in time with my kids. That is a huge thing that I feel like I need to be investing one-on-one time, hanging out with my kids, pouring into them, and busyness happens and a day will go by and I will be laying in bed thinking, I didn't even really have a deep conversation with any of my kids. And that's just totally unacceptable. So whatever those priorities might be for you, and it's going to be different depending on the different seasons of life that we're in, but write those things out. If you can make a list of even 5 different priorities, things that when you look back on this time in your life, look back on this season, that you're like, if those things happen, then it will be successful. It will be, I will look back and think, I was fulfilling the Lord's purpose. The Lord was working through all of that, and you will look back with a positive attitude, okay, about that thing. Now, the reason we do that is because so often we end up filling our days with things that don't have anything to do with our purpose. One example in the case of my family would be sports activities. Like, with 4 kids, I don't have time for them each to do individual sports activities. So, I'm trying to get them in sports, and having sort of an athletic training thing would be great, but it's not one of my top priorities. So as I'm trying to fit in different things into my day and into my week and into my family's life, I'm going to evaluate these things and think, okay, does this event or this project or this this time that we're investing, does this line up with what I say is important? And if it isn't, does it keep me from doing the things that are important? And that's going to be different for every family, and it's going to be different for every kid and every season too. So, okay, set up those priorities. The next thing, and along those same lines, is to write out certain goals that you have for your family, be it just for you and your spouse, if you don't have kids in the house, or if you have adult children. What would be your goals in relationships with them? Maybe it's to travel a certain amount of time, or to, it could be anything. But if you can, and we're actually going to do another sort of training kind of thing where we're going to talk about setting those kinds of goals, because that's also been a huge part of the process that the Lord has taken me through to help me learn to thrive. But anyway, so we'll talk about that. But if you can just think through some goals, that also helps line up whenever we're doing our schedule and our plan. We can just be constantly thinking back, is this getting me towards my goals? Is the time that I'm using, is this getting our family to the place that we want them to go? Okay. Because here's why this is so important. Time is a resource that we can never get back. And we have to budget it in such a way that we don't waste it. And I don't mean like wasting it by reading a book. Like, for example, if you're big into the Dave Ramsey envelope thing and you're super committed to not getting in debt, then you take your cash and you put it in your individual envelopes, and you're really careful to make sure that you put, $50 a month or whatever towards car repair or whatever. And you don't touch it unless your car breaks down. Like if you want to eat out again, but you're out of eat out money, okay, you can't go over here and borrow money from the car repair because the car is going to get broken, right? So if you don't know what I'm talking about, go look up Dave Ramsey. But the thing about it is that oftentimes whenever we run out of money, for example, we go and we pull out the credit card and we charge it, and we think, okay, I'll just pay that back later. We do it with our house. We buy a house. We don't have the money to buy a big house. We'll get debt. It's considered good debt. We'll get it, and then we'll pay it off month by month. The thing about time is it's a resource that we cannot go into debt over. We cannot pay it back. So we have to budget it in such a way that we are very aware of where this chunk of our resource of time is going. For example, if it's family time or if it's work time, it has to be budgeted in such a way that it makes the most out of that resource. And for me, this process that I'm about to go through with you has been that. It's done that. It's enabled me to budget my time very much like I would budget my money with the envelope system. Okay, let me find my little piece of paper. I think this is going to be backwards. I tried to switch it, and I think that's why I got the emojis on my face in the last video. But okay, this right here is a little spreadsheet, and I'm going to put a link to this, a Google Docs, in the comments later. And what it is like a time budgeting worksheet is how I want you to think of it. And what you do is you go on here. Now, I am like a color-coded person, so I color-code everything. Each of my kids has a different color, very visual like that. But if you're not that way, then forget about the color coding. You don't have to do that, but it's helpful for me to visualize it. So I don't have any idea if this is backwards or not, but if it is, then you'll get the idea regardless. So what I have on here is the days of the week, the times going across, and I have different colors for different sections of my life. For example, the yellow is family time that I have dedicated, put aside. This is what spending time as a family. And that includes our family fun night, date night with my husband, game time with the kids, bedtimes. Blue is my fill my cup time, right? Like my me time or whatever. It's working out, it's having a quiet time. It's anything like that that I need to get filled up. So orange, I homeschool my kids, so orange is homeschool. Green is when I work, doing work from home. Pink is, for me, is like house cleaning and like going grocery shopping, housework, things like that, like getting ready for life group. And purple is ministry. So church, the Hope House Bible study that I have, our life group, I got neighborhood ministry time put in there. So, and whenever I do this, and all the white part is margin, all the stuff that's not colored in. Now, ideally, you would have even more of that. We're in a busy season right now, but you would have more white, ideally, kind of depending on your schedule and all that. That white is the margin. Okay, you know when you have a piece of paper and you have stuff written on it, and if you had a book with words that went all the way to the top and all the way to every side, it would be very difficult to read, and it would not be appealing at all. So what publishers do, and what it's even on a Word document that you do, it automatically sets a margin, this white space around the outside, and that white space enables you to focus on what's written down, right? So that's what the white space is in our life. That is what that margin is. If we don't have any of that, then we've got to figure out how to get that in there so that we can see more clearly the written stuff, the stuff that we have to do. So what you put on that worksheet when you're working through that worksheet, if you decide to do this with me, is you put the things that are the same. It's your time budget, the same every single week, right? You always go to work this time of day, right? Or you always go to church on this Sunday or this Saturday night or whenever it might be. You always go to the gym at a certain time or whatever it is that you have that's consistent every week. You put that on there. And then I use this whenever I'm filling out my weekly schedule. It is my outline, right? And I can move stuff around and switch stuff. And if I've got a doctor's appointment here or there, I can move it around. But generally I have an outline of when I've dedicated for time. Now, the tricky part is that when someone calls me and they say, hey, do y'all want to come over or Jenny, do you want to come over and hang out with me or go have coffee with me on Friday night, for example, or on Saturday night? Well, when we're at home, then I'm going to say no, because I can see right here that's family fun night. So that is dedicated family time, and I'm not going to then have to go back up and say, oh my gosh, kids, I'm so sorry. I know we're supposed to watch a movie tonight or we're supposed to play a game, but I can't because I forgot. And anyway, you don't have to deal with any of that if you have your time budgeted, okay? And you just don't exceed that budgeted time because, like I said, we can't go into debt with this. Okay, so then let's see what I got here. I got notes that I'm looking at. Okay, so you do this outline. Okay, and then I'm a paper planner girl. I like to write things down. If you're a digital planner person and you put it in your phone, that's fine. Either way is fine. But whenever I am getting events that come into my life throughout the month, or like party invitations, travel plans, whatever, I stick it in my monthly view of my calendar, and I'll just stick it on first day of school, so-and-so's birthday party, whatever. Right? And I have doctor's appointments. I stick it all in the monthly view. Then when I'm planning each week, I'm going to transfer the things from the monthly view and I'm going to put them on my weekly view. Okay. It says that I've got a low network connection, but we're just going to keep going. Okay. Hopefully it keeps working. So, for example, this was this last week's. So I transferred and I color-coded it the same as I did in my budget, okay? If you're into color coding, right? That's what you do. So I color coded it and I put it on my weekly schedule, and this is when I write down the specific things. So once I get my weekly schedule and the outline of it, the bones of it stuck in, then I'm going to look at what are all like the little to-do things that are not the same week in, week out. Like maybe it's pick up dry cleaning or go pick up someone from the airport or take a meal over to someone's house or cook a birthday cake or anything that is sort of an additional something that we have to fit in our schedule that isn't like in our schedule week in, week out. So I'll do the whole list for everything for the week, and then I'm just going to plug in the things on the days that I've got some time to do it, right? Like I've got work time, so work things that come up, I stick in the green sections on my planner and fill those things in. So a homeschool field trip, for example, I would stick in the orange part of my planner. Now, the idea is that once we do all this, we're going to have a very good idea how much space we have in our schedule. And if we're running out of margin, it's a problem. Now, in just a second, we're going to talk about how to claim some of that margin back, some strategies we can use to get that margin back. So if we can stick to 3 things, maximum of 5, if we can stick to 3 things that we put on every day as our top 3 things, and those are going to be the have-tos, okay? They are not the want-to-dos. I always generally have like 3 different to-do lists going. It's the have-to-do list, which is this has to get done. There's no other option. If it doesn't get done today, then there are consequences for it. So that goes in the have-to list. And if I can limit those things to 3 things, and then I do those things first. So I will do those those top three things every day. I will do those the very first opportunity that I have. And for example, if it's bake a cake, if I'm supposed to bake a cake for somebody's birthday party and I said I would do it and it has to get done, then you will find me in my kitchen at 5:30 in the morning baking that cake. If there's not another time in the day, I do it first. If it's something that has to get done, then you do it first. So, but if we have a list of 10 things that have to get done, you're not going to get all those done. And what's going to happen is you're going to fill up every little tiny ounce of margin with all of these things that don't even really, and you still won't get them done. And then at the end of the day, you'll fall in the bed exhausted and you'll feel like, I've been busy all day and I didn't accomplish anything. And so that's what we're trying to avoid. All right. So stick with 3 things. Okay. And do those things first or as soon as possible. Like if you work full time and there are things that are outside of work and those are the 3 things you have to get done, you leave work and you drive and you do those things first before you ever get home. It's called eating the frog, if you've ever heard of that. So Google that, eating the frog. It's actually a super cool thing. Okay. So now here's the hard part. And this is the part that is very counterculture. We put things in our schedules that have no business being there because they don't line up with our priorities and they don't line up with our goals. And so I'm just going to speak some truth here. And this is a truth that I'm telling myself. And you guys, our kids do not have to be in sports and music classes and have 3 hours of homework a day and go to church 3 times a week or whatever it is. All of these things that we fill up our schedule with because we want them to be good athletes or we want them to be socialized or we want them to have this or we want them to have that, when generations of people, including Jesus himself, generations of people did not have any of those things and they turned out just fine. And we want them to be competitive in the market. We want them to anyway, it's a form of idolatry is what it is. And we do it with ourselves too, and we do it with our kids. We put things in our schedule that have no business being there because we want to keep up with the Joneses. We want our kids to have every advantage, which there's nothing wrong with that. Of course we want our kids to have every advantage. But if for all of history, children did fine without being on the premier soccer traveling team, then our kids will also be okay not being on the premier soccer traveling team. Okay? Now, please hear me. I'm not saying that your kids should not be on the premier soccer traveling team. I'm just saying if it keeps you from having any margin, if these kinds of things that we fill our schedule with keep us from being able to breathe, keep us from being able to fit in family time and having conversations with our kids, and if we are so drained and so worn out at the end of every day that we can't even invest in our kids because we're just exhausted, and we think that all of these activities are going to make them, that we're going to look back on their childhood and with huge amounts of regret. So this is hard, and it means making hard choices about the things that we do and how we prioritize. So we're going back to that list, that priority list that we made, and it's why that priority list is so important, and that goal list is so important. So here is the truth. We are not victims of our choices. We are not victims of our schedule. I felt like that in the spring. I was like, I just can't do it. I'm so busy, and it wasn't a badge of honor for me. It was a badge of shame. But I felt I was victimizing myself. I just can't get it all done. It's just feeling sorry for myself, and that was all a result of my poor choices. So, but sometimes we find ourselves in that situation, or even we just have had things put on us that aren't necessarily our choices, and it keeps our schedule so full that we don't have any of that margin. So once you do these things that I've lined out, once you've done your budget, your time budget, once you've put in all of the different appointments and things you have going on in the week, once you have chosen 3 things a day to focus on, and you're trying to keep that margin, if there is still more to do than there is to get done, then we have to do something different, because that is not the way we're supposed to live. So I have 4 sort of strategies that we can use to deal with all of the things on the list that we simply just can't get done. The first one is to delete. So if you have had something on your to-do list for like 2-3 months and it's still not done, delete it. Okay, take it off the list. It's not going to get done. For me, that was my garage. I needed to get my garage cleaned out, so it was on my to-do list every day for like 2 months. And all it did was, it was just sort of this constant, I'm a failure in front of my face because I never could get to cleaning out my garage. Or if I did have a little bit of time, I was so worn out, I didn't want to go do it. So you know what? I deleted it. I took it off the to-do list temporarily. Now I have another like long-term list that I put it on. That was something I thought, okay, I can come back to this when I have some time. And we did. We later had a Saturday that was open, and I was like, Brandon, this coming Saturday, we don't have anything on the schedule. Let's clean out the garage. And it was perfect, and we did it. So, but for the moment, it is okay to delete. It's okay to delete something off of your list. Okay. The second thing is to delay. This is not procrastination. Putting something off on purpose because you don't have time to do it is not procrastination. There's wisdom in that. If you have a doctor's appointment that can be rescheduled in a crazy, crazy week, it is okay to call and reschedule that appointment. Okay? If you have, if you can wait a few days to pick up your dry cleaning, it's okay to put that off. Delaying what can be delayed, a week, 2 weeks, a month, just push it back. You're not saying it's intentional, and I'm giving you permission. It's not procrastination. It's good, and it's okay to do. So the first one is delete it. Second one is to delay it. The third thing is to diminish it, and we talked about this when we were talking about expectations. Diminishing it, listen to this phrase, and those of you that are perfectionists, repeat it after me. Done is better than perfect. Okay, if you have 20 minutes to clean your kitchen before a party or someone comes over or whatever, or you got to get the dishes done, done is better than perfect. That is not the time to open up the oven and start scraping off the stuff off the bottom, or pulling the stuff off the pantry and sweeping up all of the dropped beans or whatever, oatmeal, or I don't know. That's what's in my pantry. Well, hold on. Whoa. I got a kid that just came in. Joseph, head out, please.
Why?
Because I'm doing a Facebook.
A Facebook Live?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's okay, darling. Shut the door, baby. Okay. That's awesome. Okay. So diminish, right? Like, dude, good enough. Good enough sometimes is good enough. I have a friend. She says it's called selective perfectionism. She's like, if she can be a perfectionist with 20% of the stuff she's doing, the other 80%, good enough is good enough. Okay? The bed does not have to be made beautifully. Just pull the covers up. It's done. It's better than perfect. Okay? Shoes out in your bedroom. I'm speaking of my own stuff. I don't know, that may be meaningless to you. But I've got shoes all over my bedroom floor, and I got to get my room picked up. I just throw it all in the closet, shut the door, right? Done is better than shoes are in my closet. Doesn't matter that they're not all lined up super neat and cute and displayed for the world to see. Done is better than perfect. Okay, so the first one is delete. The second one is delay. The third one is diminish the things on our list. Make them simpler, make them easier. Done is better than perfect. And the fourth thing is the hardest for most of us, and that is delegate. Okay, delegating, you know what delegate means. It means give this job to someone else. And the reason it's so hard for us is because in the culture that we live in, we do not like to admit need. We do not like to admit that we can't get it all done. We do not like to admit that we are not able to do it all well. We don't like to ask for help. We don't want to appear weak. We feel like it would be a burden on someone else if we ask them to help us or ask them to do something for us. Now, if you're married, then delegate to your spouse. Have him delegate to you, especially if you're both working full time. Then you delegate to each other. You sit down with your spouse and do the schedule together so that you can figure out, these are all the things that have to go on the list. Do you have any extra time during lunch one day or whatever that we can delegate this stuff? And delegating often means that we're diminishing at the same time because we have to let go of our best way of doing it, which is what happens when I delegate to my kids, when I ask them to take care of things. It's not getting done the way I want it done, but it's getting done, right? So the delegating can be hand in hand with the diminish. So if you have neighbors, can you delegate things to your neighbors? It's okay to ask for help. If you're a part of a church community, can you ask for help? Can you put out a post or something if your church has a community group that says, listen, is there someone who can help me by picking up such and such and such and such from school or whatever? If you're running, is anyone already run into the store and you can grab me a gallon of milk and swing by my house? or it's okay to delegate. It's okay to ask for help. This is the body of Christ is intended. In Acts in the New Testament, what the disciples instructed, or what they all did. I don't even know if the disciples told them to do this. They sold, all the people of this church, they sold everything that they owned, and they took all the money that they received and they piled it up together and they distributed it among anyone who had need. Guys, we're not selling all of our stuff and giving it to the church. The church is not the welfare system, but we can do that with our resources and our time. If you're in a season of your life where you have more margin, more time, more flexibility, then you can be the one who's pouring into someone who doesn't, right? And if you are the one who needs the help, it is okay to receive it. This is how the body of Christ is supposed to work. And not allowing others to minister to us and us not doing it for other people, we are robbing ourselves the opportunity to be and exist in a body of believers, guys. It is so important. So this is especially important if you're a single mom, or you're a working full-time mom whose husband isn't super helpful. Then this is even so much more important for you. And if there is not a network of people that you know that can help each other, that can fill in the gaps, that you can delegate some things to, then create that network. Be that person. Set up a ministry of some kind at your church to help single moms, or even create a community of people between families that have some single parents and some working moms and some stay-at-home moms, where you sort of get on like a Facebook group together where you can reach out and ask for help and delegate that way. And finally, if you have the resources, it is great. Hire someone to help you. Hire someone to walk your dog. Hire someone to, there's grocery delivery services. You can hire someone to clean your house, or come over and help you with your laundry, help you fold your laundry. There's college kids who would love a few extra dollars to come over and fold laundry for a little while. And if you don't think you have the resources for that, send me a message, because I am the master at finding money. Like looking at the budget and pulling a little bit from the grocery budget and a little bit from this budget and like making it work, getting a little bit of resources to delegate. Okay, so delete, delay, diminish, or delegate. I'm going to say this again. Once you get your whole schedule set up and you have no white space and you have no margin and there's too much to do, then there's time to do in it. You have to do something different. Nothing ever changes if we don't change. And that is, it may mean that we take our kids out of something. It may mean that we say no, or that we don't go to that birthday party, or that we don't serve that person in that moment, in that time. It may mean that we ask for help, even if it makes us look like we don't have it all together. We have to do something different if we want things to change. So here's the goal. The goal is, at the end of all of this, you look at your week and you have margin, you have white space, so that you're not rushing from thing to thing, and that you have a chunk of time somewhere in your week that can be dedicated to rest. And then there's a discipline involved in resting, and I would like to talk more about that another time. But when you get that white space time, those of us that are workaholics are super, we're used to always being busy, always doing something. And we're like, I'm just this way. I work better when I'm super busy. I work better when I've got so much on my plate. Well, the reality of it is God created us for rest. So we have to practice the discipline of rest, and we can talk more about that later. But okay, so I'm going to leave you guys with some action steps. The first is to right now set up a time to plan your week. I plan my week on Sundays at 4, unless I'm traveling, and then I have to adjust it. But I give myself an hour or more, preferably with Brandon, although sometimes I'm by myself, where I go through my week and I do this. I put things all in my budget, in my time budget that I've created, and I list out all of my to-dos for the week, and I place like 3 major things that I have to do per day. And when I do it like that, guys, I am able to get those things done. And a lot of other things don't get done. I will go to bed and there'll be laundry piled up on my bed, and I just pick it up and move it over to the chair, and I'm like, okay, it's all right, because I did get this done, and I did get this done, and I did get this done. And so the day, it's great. I feel like I've done what I said I was going to do. I've done the most important things that line up with my priorities. So this time This planning time is so important. So set this time aside. Excuse me. Set this time aside and then be disciplined to do it. Be disciplined to do the thing that to do the planning that you're supposed to be doing, okay? And then choose the 3 things that you're going to stick on every day. Just keep it at 3. Trust me. I've heard 3 to 5, but unless you have a lot of white space, trying to get 5 extra work, like I'm not talking about like if you have a full-time job or even a part-time job, I'm not necessarily talking about your work stuff that you like, you clock in and then you have things to do during that day. I'm talking about things outside of work that bleed into all your margin time. And maybe it's your work that bleeds into your margin time. But pick 3 things and do those 3 things first. Go look up Eat the Frog. It's a really cool thing. It's gross, but it's awesome. And look in the comments. I don't know if I'll get to it today, just because this was supposed to happen this morning, but I screwed it all up. So, and I'm going to go have some family time. But I'm going to put this in a link in the comments or something really similar to it for you to fill out your time budget. And let me know. Let me know how it goes. Comment and tell me how you like how it works, what struggles you're having. And you can reach out to me in private message, and we can chat about ways that we can create more margin if you're really struggling with any of these things. It's one of my missions in life is to see moms have some margin. And it's that way because I have been horrible at it in the past, and learning how to do it is an ongoing process for me, but it offers so much freedom. So hopefully this was helpful. Hopefully you can apply some of these things and start kicking out some stuff from your list, making sure you have some white space, and then we'll talk later about prioritizing, setting goals, and what was the other thing I said we're going to talk about? Prioritizing, setting goals, and I don't remember what the other one was. Anyway, I'll remember it later. We'll talk about it later. Okay. Thank you so much. Love y'all. And we'll chat soon.